hear me? Oh, there we go. Thanks. Welcome to the December 14th STIF committee meeting. It's 5:30. We're starting the meeting. And I'll call roll. Phil Barnhart, not yet.
I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Oh, perfect. Count you as present. Thanks, Phil. Hoover Chambliss. Kelly Clark will not be here. I'm here. Alma is not going to make it. Josh is here. And Susie's not here yet. Ed's not here yet. Eugene's not here yet. Cosette is here. David Reeser is not going to make it. Philip Sheemhugh is not going to make it. Vidal is not here, and Pete is not here yet. Maybe we should just do a quick around the room, just in case everybody doesn't know everybody. So I'm Mike, and I'm chairing the meeting. And go ahead, Josh.
Josh Krasinski. I work for Transportation Services at the University of Oregon.
Cosette Reese, I'm with Lane Transit District. I'm the Chief Customer Experience Officer.
I'm Pam Stutz, Director of Finance at LTD.
I'm Kate Wilson. I'm a Transportation Planner at the Lane Council of Governments, and I help staff the STIF Advisory Committee.
I am Tom Schmutz. I'm the Director of Mobility Management and Policy at LTD.
John Allen, Accessible and Customer Services.
And online, I know I saw Phil. Phil, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I was just trying to see if I could turn my webcam on. It would be great if the shared screen went away, because I could see the room a whole lot better, because it's very, very small on the Zoom as long as the screen is being shared. But of course, later on, you'll want to put that on. My name is Phil Barnhart. I'm a community member. I'm a former legislator, and currently I'm the president of the Emerald Valley Electric Vehicle Association. So I'm very interested in the electrification of the Lane Transit District, and of course, pretty much everything else we're working on as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Is there anybody else online? Okay, this is us. So our meeting today is going to be sort of a check-in meeting, because it's been a while since we've gotten together. And basically, staff is going to walk us through the commitments that we've already made, the projects that are underway, and give us sort of an update. So Kate, how about taking it away?
Tom, did you want to start off? Or do you want me to talk about?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, just wanted to quickly check in about the overview of sort of what this committee is. Just as a really quick reminder that this committee is an advisory committee to the LTD Board of Directors. And you all make several different types of recommendations. One, you make recommendations for STIF formula funds, and you make those recommendations to the LTD board, and then they submit an application to ODOT for STIF formula funds. And then you also make recommendations directly to ODOT for STIF discretionary and inter-community funds. And you make those recommendations every 2 years. Right now we're in the mid-cycle, so that will start again. This process will start again next fall. Usually applications come out in the fall, and then applications go to ODOT. Will go to ODOT in early 2025, which is actually just tomorrow, even though it feels like it's far away. But this is just kind of a quick check-in and reminder about what you all have been talking about in the past. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to that, Tom.
No, I just add that Kate and Mel Cog are helping us manage the program and ensure to deliver to the state on time and that.
So I see that I did omit audience participation, so I'll ask if there's anyone that has any comments that anyone would like to make before we go on. Okay, so Tom, are you up next? Or Kate, are you going to walk through this?
I think several different LTD staff folks are going to work through this, starting with Tom.
So, and I think Kate described the role of the committee in terms of advising the LTD board. Ultimately, as you've done now, we've been through 3 cycles, and you also provide recommendations to ODOT for STIF discretionary and inter-community funds, which is a separate process. And again, you've done that. We thank you for that. And then ultimately, you make recommendations every 2 years as part of the STIF application process. So, and Kate, maybe you can explain, we're required to have 3 meetings of this group every year.
We're required to have 2 meetings of this group every year.
So this is the second.
We actually met in like January 3rd, I think, is our last meeting. So we kind of bookended. So again, I think it's also really good for us to sort of check in because otherwise it would be quite a long time before you all would meet. So this is a good time to sort of bring everyone together. I wish a few more folks had been able to come, but bring folks together and remind you about about the program.
All right. So then, just a summary. We're going to look tonight at the projects from fiscal years 22, 23, or 21, 22, 22, 23. Yes. And so that's July 1st, 2021 through June 30th of 2023. These are projects that were originally submitted to STIF Advisory Committee for review back in fall of 2020. So it's been a minute. And there's 19 projects, and we're going to step through those tonight just to give you a status.
So I can speak to a couple of our first projects here. These are going to be technology related. So the first project we have identified here is an integrated trip planner. And the intention of this is to be able to assist people with multimodal transportation, as well as just kind of meet everyone's needs when you're getting from point A to point B for all the different options out there. That includes public transportation, obviously, but now we've got scooter share, bike share, even how does parking work? Have that all available through an integrated trip planning system. So we went into this project with the best of intentions in the prior biennium, trying out software product, using a combination of both STIF and federal dollars to be able to support a project to the completion. However, on initiating it, what we discovered is that this project was quickly outside of the scope of products that were readily available. So we found that the technology is not quite there yet for us to be able to support the community's vision and expectations. So at this point in time, we're continuing to explore how we might be able to deliver on this. However, that might either be waiting for the right technology product to come along with an acknowledgement from us that there wasn't an obvious off-the-shelf solution that we'd be able to adopt, or to be able to find another creative solution in the future that might better address the community's needs. So we actually put this on the shelf as an unfinished project that we'll explore in future bienniums. The next project that
So, John, Kate, what happens with the money that was allocated to the project then if we're going to put this one on hold?
If projects get put, if not all the funding gets spent on any project, it just rolls up into the big pot of money for the next cycle, and then you can reallocate for the next cycle.
Thanks. Sorry, John, go ahead.
Oh,
yeah.
When it rolls up into the larger pot, it stays within our entity.
It's not the great pot in the sky, it's still our pot.
LTD's pot.
Great, okay.
That's a good clarification. And for the microphone, I can just note that any unused STIF funds stay within the payroll tax district in which it was collected. So the intention is that it's used to benefit the same people who are paying into it. The next project that we wanted to note is the Cottage Grove Connector. So this is a mobility on demand service available within the city of Cottage Grove city limits. It's been wildly popular and successful to be able to help people go for an on-demand origin to destination style service, which is available using an app on someone's phone or through a computer. In addition to that, we've also addressed concerns from within the city of Cottage Grove for residents who may not prefer to use or know how to use their smartphone to be able to use this type of app technology. So we're both working with community members on being able to show people how or make sure that that can be available as a resource, but also have a dispatch staff for anyone who prefers to call on a telephone and talk to a human being. We still allow that as an option. So the Cottage Grove connector has helped to both fill a gap in the Cottage Grove transportation services that are provided, but it also helps to serve older adults and people with disabilities that may not be best served by a big public transit bus with defined stops or some of the other modes that have been tried in that area before. It also has given us data and information to help us test future mobility on demand projects. So the idea is we can use this technology elsewhere, and we've been exploring other ways that we might be able to deploy this using the same app in other areas. So we're looking at ways that we can use this type of service, this type of technology, to meet gaps that aren't best served by, say, a 40-foot or 60-foot bus in our area. So this has been an ongoing project that we've seen has been widely embraced by the community, heavily used, and been a good transportation investment using STIF funding.
So John, can, just for the record, this sounds like it's on demand, means that someone can request it. And then is it door to door as well?
We would use the term origin to destination. So we'll pick somebody up right where they're at and take them right where they need to go.
Okay.
Folks that are familiar with what we call transit network companies or TNCs like Uber or Lyft, it's a similar style of service where someone can book a trip on an app on their phone, or again, call to a dispatcher, and a vehicle will come and pick them up right where their phone is geolocating them, and then they'll punch in their destination and it'll take them right to it. So the idea is that we can get people where they need to go without needing to have defined stops, and that's anywhere within the city of Cottage Grove city limits.
And then do we provide the vehicle as well, or is that contracted somehow? Or?
We do. So we provide and own the vehicles, and we also provide for infrastructure to support the service, which we then contract out. So that's currently through South Lane Wheels, with the idea that a service can be a relatively turnkey operation.
Any other questions, Cosette?
Well, I would just add that this is an opportunity for LTD to test that as a mode or a mobility opportunity that we might replicate in other parts of our service area. And also, even in Cottage Grove, looking at how we can improve adoption of the app rather than people calling in to dispatch, which basically becomes something of a taxi. And then maybe looking at other expansions beyond Cottage Grove city limits. So I think it's a great opportunity. It's also very well utilized. So about 30% of the trips on that service are shared trips.
Oh, nice.
So it's very well utilized.
Bill, any questions?
Yes, if I could, what are the parameters around fees and that sort of thing? How it works, I've heard pretty well, but how do we pay for it? Is there a charge to the rider?
There is. That's a great question. Thanks for asking it. So we charge a very modest $1 for the service, which doesn't pay for the service. It's essentially a token of value for utilizing the service. But we're only able to implement mobility on demand thanks to programs like STIF funding. So this is a entirely STIF funded program that we've used through formula funds.
Great, thank you.
I
Go
do
ahead,
have a
Josh.
question. Do you have numbers on like ridership or miles driven or things like that?
I do. So we've got quite a bit of data on that. What I would recommend is I could send that to the group following the meeting. We can get you a packet. We've used this as a project that we've been able to do a heavy amount of data collection to analyze for success of the service. Even one of our service planners wrote a master's thesis based on the information we've collected through Mobility on Demand. So we've done quite a bit of research, particularly around the Cottage Grove connector, the successes, failures, lessons learned along the way. And we also have all of the quantitative data that I think folks would want as far as ridership, miles, all of the things that inform the service. We've also done quite a bit of qualitative surveying with our ridership what's working, what's not, where are we taking people, what are the hot spots. So I'd be happy to provide that to the group, and so we can do a follow-up email that contains all of that information.
Well, I'd just note that it's Jeremy Card
Yep.
that put that report together.
Yep, excellent work that he's done.
U of O planning grad. So I'm going to talk about the mobility management strategy. So mobility management strategy was intended to provide a framework adopted by the board in June this year to help us in a programmatic way go through kind of a step-by-step assessment of different forms of mobility, and just to make sure that they fit kind of what we're trying to do, and kind of have a deliberate process to go through that. You know, at some point, again, that's another thing that's available on our website. The way I would characterize it's really foundational to the Reimagine the Ride efforts that we're stepping into, or insert other form of mobility here, into the role of being the region's mobility manager. And so again, I'd encourage you to take a look at that. You can get added on our website, or give me a call and I can send it to you. And again, we're building a lot off of what we did with that. The rolling stock, we use.
Josh?
I'm sorry,
Oh,
there was
sorry.
a fourth task with this this item that was additional pilots. Just for my clarification, we didn't do any additional mobility on demand pilot programs, right?
Not at this point.
Yeah, thank you.
Good question. So talking about the rolling stock, we use STIF funds to purchase 15 of our 30 electric buses using this funding. They're on site now, and anticipating a question from Phil Barnhart, I will say I would like to suggest, and we can get this to you, but last night at the board meeting, Eric Evers, our fleet director, gave a great presentation on how we're looking at our electric fleet relative to the overall fleet. And I'd be happy to send that. And again, if you ever have any questions, be happy to get into that. But any other questions?
Phil, I know you have a question.
Well, I think it would be great to see that or get the report. I'm hoping it's been a positive experience so far.
I would say yes and maybe no. We're trying to figure it out, but I'd encourage you to look at the report, and then again, we can get Eric into a conversation and talk about kind of where we're at with that.
That would be fantastic. I would very much like to do that.
I can speak to our student fare program. So this has been an amazing program we've implemented thanks to STIF dollars, which we also are able to train our future ridership by ensuring that everyone that's K through 12 in our area or is receiving educational services through Lane ESD is able to ride on public transit. So we're then able to issue passes through schools and to get them to families so that kids are able to ride on public transit. This, I'll note that we've got some statistics on our slide here on the number of passes that we've managed to issue, as well as the number of boardings that we've been able to track, which is a truly incredible amount of ridership that we've been able to include. Thanks to our tap card system, we're able to have a better handle on data on where passes are being used, how often our ridership is utilizing. But I'll note an important point. Currently on MX, as we're not tracking taps on our most popular BRT system, those aren't included in these statistics. So the actual ridership is going to be significantly higher than what we're reporting on this slide here. But we are being heavily utilized by students throughout our community thanks to STIF program. So This is a way that we're able to encourage public transit ridership, build up future ridership, and I think just try and be of service to our community.
So John, when we initially did this program years ago, I think we had to cut it off in the summertime, or am I remembering that right, Tom? I guess my question is, does this go year round, or is it just during the school year?
Yeah, so for folks that are going to be enrolled in the following year, we're doing coverage in between. So you may also be thinking in past years, we've also done a one pass system where we partner with other agencies. So that's at least for public transit ridership, that's no longer necessary using our student transit pass program. So we're able to make sure that folks that are going to be enrolled in the upcoming year will have that summertime coverage as well.
Thanks.
Another program that has been a huge help to our community, thanks to STIF, has been our low-income fare programs. So this is where we have partnered with local nonprofits to help us get fare passes in the hands of people who need it. So that becomes a bit outside the scope of what we're able to accomplish as a transit agency, to be able to identify the needs from a financial perspective of our entire community. But what we can do is partner with our local nonprofits that are already doing that work to help us know who needs assistance with public transit, particularly due to financial exigency. So this is an area where we've been able to partner with currently over 30 different local nonprofits to be able to provide fare. We have, over the course of a biennium, been able to provide tens of thousands of passes for people in need that are, again, vetted through these local nonprofits. So we're able to work out individual agreements with nonprofits to be able to assist us in getting subsidized fare in the hands of people who need it.
Question on that one. It says 87,300 low-income fares issued. Is that people participating in the program, or does...
that is not individual. So that's a good question. Generally, I would take off approximately a 0 if we're talking about the number of people. So we do know the number of tap cards that we're issuing, which in any given year, it's going to be more than 1,000 at the rate we've been going. So maybe around 1,500 or so we might do in a given year. So each one of those is typically going to a person, but that's actually measuring the different types of fare implements, which could be a tap card, it could be a day pass, it could be any of the different types of ways that we issue fare. So we're just tracking how many different types of fare instruments have we given out, and then we leave it to the nonprofits to decide how they're best kind of used and implemented and spread out. So for some people that may be every month they need to check in and get that renewed or topped up. Other people we say, here's 2-day passes to be able to get you where you need to go and back, or whatever best meets their needs. So we would leave that to the nonprofits to make that determination. And we feel our responsibility is to empower them to be able to make those decisions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Electronic fare validators.
Yeah. Next, electronic fare validators. So I was mentioning with our student fare program that on our MX system, we currently don't have a method of being able to track that data. And it's not just on MX, on our RideSource paratransit service. Many of our auxiliary or paratransit services, so I'll include Rhodey Express, Diamond Express, services in South Lane and elsewhere, including link lane services. We don't currently have them on our fare validating technology. So we're not collecting that data. We're not able to collect statistics at the level and nuance that we can on our fixed route system. So we're looking to change that. The first part of this project in the prior biennium was the purchase of the fare validators that we need to be able to implement the technology. So we currently have those purchased in place. We're right on the verge and cusp of installing those on our RideSource vehicle fleet. What we're waiting for in the current biennium is we have an order of 19 vehicles that's imminently arriving. Literally any day, those will be arriving. And we're waiting to do the install on the entire vehicle fleet when we have all of our vehicles on site. So kind of the stage 2 is to start getting these on vehicles and allowing people to use the same tap card throughout all the different services that LTD is offering, looking to include LCOG's link lane service in this as well at some point. So I think similar to what we were trying to do with the integrated trip planner, we're trying to simplify things for our community. Have one tap card, one fare processing system that you can go. If you're transferring between one bus or one system and another, you don't have to worry about shuffling through different cards or having cash to pay for a system that you don't have a card for, that you can use that, and for it to be smart enough that it knows how to fare cap or when to charge you, so that community members only have to pay the least amount that they normally would if they were paid by any other means. So we've got the technology infrastructure in place. Now we're just getting the hardware on the vehicles, which is a bit challenging, as you might expect. Many of our buses, they're different makes, models, vehicles, wiring, all of the different IT and ITS components that go into that. So that'll be kind of the next steps for us in a future project. And top of the list is currently to get RideSource included on the same system that we have on Fixed Route, with our ISET on all the other services that we have in our area as well, so that they'll all incorporate that same TouchPass system.
So the project I'm looking at says platform validators. How is that different than this, or is it the same?
Very similar. It's the same technology. I'll say since the prior biennium, the technology has evolved a little bit, and it is one of the things that we've looked at very closely. So nowadays, there's a few different models of essentially the same technology. One is something that's kind of built in or affixed to a platform. Another is something that we can wire inside of a vehicle. And then the third that we've been looking at more closely is what's called a mobile validator, something that's hooked up to the equivalent of a cell phone or mobile technology, so that it's handheld to be able to validate. So what we found is that platform validators isn't quite where the technology that we need at this point in time, or it's still emerging. So what we do have is a large stockpile of in-vehicle validators that serves the same purpose, and a smaller number of mobile validators for vehicles where an in-vehicle install doesn't make as much sense. So based on the different vehicles types and styles, they all have their own unique needs that we're trying to address through the technology and the hardware. So, but they all essentially do the same thing, that you hold a card up to it and it scans it, or through a proximity sensor can detect whether there's valid fare.
Thanks.
Thank you. Oh, Diamond Express. So I also want to mention our service to and from Oak Ridge to our metropolitan area. Oak Ridge is fairly unique in that there aren't many other transportation options to connect it with our metropolitan area. So Amtrak does go nearby, but it doesn't stop within the city of Oak Ridge. And so for folks that need to connect to the metropolitan area, whether that's to get food, education, folks are going to LCC and U of O, receive healthcare if they need to go to Riverbend, commuters that are going to work back and forth every day, or to receive social services. These are all things that people need to come to the metropolitan area for, that without Diamond Express service, wouldn't be able to connect. And we've certainly seen the urgency and exigency for that with things like recent disasters such as wildfires, snow and ice, other types of weather events where folks have either lost electricity or had needs, or healthcare emergencies, to be able to connect them to the area here. We see this as a lifeline type of service. So this is something that we've traditionally partnered with ODOT to be able to perform using 5311 F funds. However, what we've been able to lean on STIF funding for is an expansion of the Diamond Express service to include a fourth trip on weekdays, to be able to give people more options to be able to go back and forth, as well as to be able to pilot a Saturday service project, which can include folks who may want to go to Oak Ridge for recreation. So as a mountain biking mecca, and for outdoors activities and other things that are offered in the city of Oak Ridge that previously were unavailable for folks that were relying on public transit. So those have both been two expansion projects that are currently in place and ongoing in the current biennium. One other note about Diamond Express is it also serves in Oak Ridge a community that has a larger proportion of older adults, people with disabilities, and low-income populations than elsewhere throughout Lincoln.
You might add to that, if you happen to be curious, That service was actually started in, I want to say, the late 90s. And it was actually started, myself and Terry Parker, if you know Terry Parker. Terry was aware of some federal money available. It was during a recessionary period. And the thought then was that the federal intent was to set up a service that could connect unemployed workers in a small town like Oak Ridge to educational facilities or jobs in the metro area. And we've been adding trips and improving the service ever since. The next one is mine. So bike share enhancement project, we were, I'll say, you could say pioneering the use of STIF funds for this purpose. I think since then ODOT's kind of restricted it, but we got things started with STIF funds back in this period. And with that money, we were able to, I should say this is kind of current, some of this is current how we're doing, but it was able to establish the bike share system, 18 bike stations, 5 of them were funded through STIF, 350 bikes, 50 of them were funded through STIF. We've been increasing the ridership each quarter. And we actually, so when it first started, you might recall, we did kind of a pilot that involved primarily the U of O. And of course, even today, the district for bike shares is the downtown U of O. We lowered the age limit to 16 when we brought the STIF funds in, just to open that up to more individuals. As part of this program, we also provided 91 low-income memberships. So.
All right, Link Lane. So as a quick reminder, Link Lane is actually a service of the Lane Council of Governments. And Link Lane started operating in late 2019 for the Florence to Yachats connector, and then in March 2020 for the Eugene to Florence connector. Perfect time to start a new transit route. But this route has actually, the Eugene to Florence route has actually really been very successful, and it wouldn't happen without STIF funding. It has been through the last biennium was completely funded through a combination of STIF formula funds and STIF intercommunity funds. And you can see here, there's been over 19,000 rides on that service in those main first 2 years of operations, and or I guess the second, third year of operations. But it's gotten to a point where the Link Lane buses from Eugene to Florence is so busy at times that there are riders that are standing on the bus to try for that full hour ride, which has been pretty significant. Link Lane did receive a Category B bus, which is just a bigger bus. So we ordered that actually initially during the very beginning of COVID when CARES Act funding became available. And at the time, we were so new to it. We were like, what? This bus is huge. There's no way it will be necessary for this route. And then it was like, oh, yes, that is very much necessary. And so that's been a really exciting highlight that bus just came in this year and is now in service.
So Kate, are there people that pretty much ride it every day as commuters, or?
I don't think people ride it too much as commuters. Okay. Right now, the way it runs twice a day, and it would really, it just, there's not enough time right now because it starts in Eugene. So Florence folks are really only here for about 4 hours. So it gets back into Eugene. So it's not quite enough time. There is in fiscal, or I'm not talking about the upcoming years, but there will be an extra midday route added some days per week, which will potentially change the schedule a little bit.
Can you remind us what the fare for that is?
It's $5 one way. So, and I think, yeah, we have a kind of a good different mix of folks that ride. We've also been looking at different types of bike racks because lots of people like taking those thick-wheeled bikes out to the coast. I like to tell, I think Andrew Martin rode our planner here at LTD, rode the bus all the way out to Yachats on both routes, and then he biked all the way home on forest roads. Which I was really happy when he told me that story. So, but I think, yeah, it's been a great great service and definitely very helpful for a lot of folks to get in for medical appointments and things like that. And then the other service that Link Lane offers, the other fixed route service that Link Lane offers is the Florence to Yachats. And that operates 4 days a week, 6 days a week, 4 round trips per day. You can see here the ridership for this has also got really steadily improved every quarter. I think this one you can really see both of them you see a seasonal switch. It definitely dies down more in the winter, but particularly the Florence to Yachats. But anytime I've ever been on it, I think there's been a backpacker or a bike packer who didn't want to walk or bike in that particular stretch of highway. So it's been a really interesting one for a lot of tourists that are going all up and down the coast. So that's been exciting to see as well.
I'm curious on the Florence Yachats line. Do you feel like that's more used by tourists or more used by folks who live on the coast?
That one, interestingly, we know of at least, I think I know of at least 3 people who have used it regularly to get back and forth to work, working in like minimum wage or hourly wage type jobs that we know about. So I would say for some people, it really is a lifeline. You know, a few people that do it really regularly. And then I think, you know, from the beginning, we had we would talk about our ladies who lunch, this one group of women who would go up to Yachats and eat lunch and then come back on the next route. So I think it's sort of an interesting mix of some tourists using it, some locals using it for leisure rides, and then some people using it for necessity.
Yeah, I would add that the reason that Florence to Yachats piece is even there is that was the only place where there wasn't service along the coast. So that ODOT wanted to make sure that got filled. And so people are using it to get from Florence to Yachats and back and forth, but it also kind of connects the whole coast.
Mm-hmm. And we have really great partners on both ends. So we've really worked to, I mean, there's still rural connections, so it's not like you're going to get there and immediately get on another bus, but we've really done our best to work with both CCAT on the south side and Lincoln County on the north side to make sure that there is connectivity so that you can get further up and down the coast all on the same day and not wait for 8 hours for a bus. So
is there any way to track people who are like just going up and down the coast and making those connections?
Not at this moment. I think there's conversations for how we can have, even with thinking about how we can share fare programs with LTD. I think those types of conversations are happening across different regions and different areas.
It's an interesting question because you may recall, I mean, the reason the state stepped in and is operating a lot of the service or is contracting others to do it. Greyhound and other services like that used to run up and down the coast. I actually took one from Brookings back to Eugene via Newport and Corvallis. It was a long trip. But since that's gone away, then they've kind of cobbled this service up and down. I have to say, I haven't looked, I'm curious, but I'm guessing there's data on the ridership that you could probably discern if there's anybody making that kind of trip. But
one thing we've heard qualitatively is that even for folks that are cyclists up and down the Oregon coast, that particular stretch happens to be pretty treacherous. And even for avid riders, they'll choose to take public transportation just to get through that little stretch of road.
Thank you.
Look at that. Is that?
Oh, yeah. So we also have some projects that are ongoing into the
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Bill.
I may have missed it. Did we talk about what the fare was on this ride?
The Florence?
The Florence to Yachats piece.
Yes. The Florence to Yachats is $250.
And if I wanted to go from Brookings to Tillamook, I'd have to buy a ticket for each one of those buses along the way.
At this moment, that's what we're working at. We do have some, for instance, Link Lane has an agreement with Amtrak, so Amtrak will sell our tickets. So if you were to let's say buy a bus ride from Portland to Yachats, you could go to the Amtrak website and buy it on the train down to Eugene, and then the bus across, and then the bus up to Yachats. That would be all one ticket. But I'm not sure that all of our partners have that across. That's not a standard that I think exists across all of the state and all of the coast right now.
Well, my comment, I guess, would be that now that you've got the route in place, that might be one of the next things to figure out.
Appreciate that. Yes, that is definitely a high priority item.
Thank you.
So some projects that were listed on the prior biennium that remain ongoing into the current biennium include some vehicle purchases. Part of that has been supply chain issues and additional complications with purchasing vehicles nowadays that have included the RideSource shopper bus, which is a current existing service that we've been looking to expand, but need the additional vehicle before that can essentially move forward. That would be a 30-foot bus, so a little bit larger than our typical RideSource vehicles. A Diamond Express bus purchase, which just showed up on our lot and is just getting ready for service. We're still kicking the tires around and getting that ready. And then finally, Roadie Express service expansion. So we recently received our new Roadie Express vehicle. That took a little bit of time in itself, and we needed that vehicle in place to be able to complete a service expansion. So that's currently about to get underway and imminent. So we have plans to put that vehicle to work.
I think we have a comment
okay.
from Jennifer Boardman from ODOT. She raised her hand.
Okay, please, Jennifer. Is it Jennifer?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, as far as the comment on paying for a ride up the coast, currently, yes, there is some difficulties. When you start in Brookings, you have to pay for the Brookings, then you pay for the Coos Bay, and then you pay for the Link Lane. But once you get past Yachats, they have a group of individuals with Nawada where they do a price. They all sell the same tickets, so you can buy a ticket and utilize it across their services. And I know that Cosette and I have talked about this in the past because it would be nice to have something more regionally in our area, not even just in our area, but statewide, so that people would not have to buy multiple tickets to get from here to there. That's all.
Thank you.
So we're it. Okay.
That's it, yeah.
So just talking about kind of what happens next in this coming fall. So next fall, we're going to begin to create the application for the next biennium, the 26-27 biennium. And as in past years, the timeline is going to be compressed. Usually there's a 2.5 month window, I think, to get everything together and approved by the board and submitted to ODOT. And so we'll be planning to pull this committee together in advance to provide information and have a conversation that kind of prepares us for that process. Any questions?
Cosette,
I don't really have questions, but just a couple of comments. Is that all right?
please.
Okay, first, I just wanted to go back to the rolling stock. I know that Phil, you.
Slide or just...
No, it's fine. Phil, you had asked about the electric versus the diesel vehicles, and we referred to a presentation last night. I just want to share a little bit more insight about that, Phil, and still will share with you the presentation. I think it's important for you to do that, but I just want to, at a very high level, share what that discussion was. So last night, LTD went to the board, and we asked the board to approve us moving forward with the purchase of diesel 60-foot buses for MX vehicle replacement and also diesel 40-foot buses for replacement. So these are to replace vehicles that have already surpassed their vehicle life. And, you know, we received of the last 19 of the last 19 battery electric buses that we received, we've had significant problems with them. Both in terms of they were on a recall, so they sat on our lot for about 5 months, And having the recall concerns repaired has taken quite a bit of time, and they've had to come back out and redo. And then also our experience has been that we don't get the range that we get with the battery electric buses that allow us to deploy a bus pretty much all day. We have to bring that battery electric bus back in and trade it out, which significantly reduces efficiencies. And then just generally reliability for those vehicles has not been what our expectation was. And in addition, we're operating R99 fuel in our diesel buses, which is really very clean diesel fuel. It's in line with Oregon's Clean Fuel Program. So our intent is to continue to evaluate other propulsion systems. And what we know is that those propulsion systems are evolving. And for our personal needs, most of them, so again, the battery electric vehicles can provide what we need for our personal needs. But when we're talking about public transportation, where we're sending buses out of the area or we're deploying buses for a whole day, we're having to basically provide 1.5 bus for the battery electric buses to do what we can accomplish with a diesel vehicle. And again, that diesel vehicle is operating with R99, which is generally clean. So again, not to say never, we still are very committed. We still have our climate goals. We've already accomplished most of our climate goals. So we're still committed to that. And I just wanted to make sure, Phil, that we addressed that. And again, I'm happy to connect you with Eric Evers, who's our fleet director, who has done quite a bit of research and can share that with you. But I just wanted to share that with you. That was one thing. And then also just on the connectivity on the coast.
Let's just check and see.
Yeah, sure.
Did you have any questions or comments on that, Phil?
Well, yeah, we're at the very beginning of the process of getting to renewable energy vehicles. I applaud the R99 process that you're involved in. I think that is really great if you can use fuel that mostly comes from renewable resources, even in a diesel vehicle. Eventually, I mean, we don't know, none of us know what process we're going to end up with in the long run that will get us to a completely carbon neutral or carbon negative society. And it sounds from what you've said as though, for our purposes at least, these buses are not yet ready for your use. I mean, I could give you a bunch of suggestions, but they'd be from an amateur who doesn't really know what the problems are. I mean, everything like off-site charging while the bus is sitting waiting for a turnaround or something. But you know that I don't know enough about that topic to even suggest it. And I'm sure that you've already thought of it. So I appreciate the update. I'm a bit disappointed, but you know, life is, and I'd fully expect that we're going to end up with a completely renewable system sometime soon. There is new technology coming along every single week, maybe even every day on these topics. But I appreciate that you've been studying this stuff so carefully and actually have good reasons for what you're doing now. Appreciate that very much.
Thanks, Phil. Thank you, Cassette.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And then one last thing is, again, on the connectivity through the coast, I agree. And this kind of goes to, I think, looking to future biennia. So one of the things, and Jennifer could talk more about this if she wants, but I think I'll cover it, is that we're not restricted to projects just within our county. So we, and again, this is kind of jumping ahead to future biennium, but we have opportunities to partner with other qualified entities with STIF programs. So that might be something that we consider, we look at in the future when we're looking at creating barrier-free, seamless transportation that's useful. And again, starting to look at that statewide system. So much appreciated. And I just wanted to thank Kate and Tom and John for their presentation.
So have we done it? Josh?
No, I see Jennifer.
Oh, Jennifer, do you have a hand up?
I don't know if I could just say one more thing about the connectivity.
Go ahead.
I'm scheduling regional meetings for Region 3, and I will definitely invite Kate. I might have already invited you for those meetings, but we're looking at trying to coordinate better in the coming STIF cycle. So we are beginning talks in January and February because 2025 is going to be here before we know it, and we don't know the exact dates of the next cycle. So I'm really encouraging people to try to get started on their project list as soon as possible, and then all you have to do is plug those numbers in once you get the actual estimates from us in the fall, late spring or late summer, fall of 2024.
Thank you.
So
Go ahead, Josh.
I just have one other comment. I do really appreciate staff's presentation, and I don't want to create a lot of extra work, but there were a couple of projects that we approved that weren't addressed in this presentation. And I think it's important for the public to know what is happening with this funding source. And so I think you should give some consideration to just maybe a 1 or 2 pager that goes project by project and says what the status is, whether it's you can't procure the vehicle or something along those lines, just so the public's aware of what's happening with this funding.
No, I appreciate that, Josh. We one of the biggest parts of the STIP fund was adding service. And as you know, it's been difficult to do. We're still trying to catch up our drivers to the level that we're actually operating more service than we really have drivers for. So there's a lot of stress put on the drivers to do that. But things are looking good in terms of our being able to kind of steadily make progress. And so the hope is we'll be able to add service at some point. But right now we're kind of stuck on that. But I was just calling out that one project as a significant source of the funding. But I appreciate the concept of let's do a written report on that.
About ready to call us adjourned. Anything else? Thank you, everybody. We'll be in touch, and we'll be meeting again.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you so much. Great presentation tonight.
Thank you.